Today's episode is sponsored by Raul Rodriguez Law.
What's up, guys? Welcome to this episode of the Leija Lounge. Today, we're really excited to be joined by a very special guest to our family. He almost feels like a long-distant cousin that we catch up with every now and then. But whenever he's here, we always try to link up. The former WBC lightweight champion of the world, Omar Figueroa Jr.
All right.
Welcome to the lounge.
Good job.
Omar, thanks so much. You drove in today from Westlaco. Thanks so much for being here. You say you're going back today. I don't know if I believe you. For me, I'm not a driver, but thanks for being here. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. What's a normal day? Like for us, the first question we usually ask, what's a normal day in your life like right now? Like you're kind of not a guy who I would say is very easily accessible. I wouldn't say you're that. You know what I mean? You're kind of not a recluse, but it's I think there's a lot of people that are interested in just what's a normal day like for Omar now. You know what I mean? Post career, what are you up to? You look great.
Honestly, I'm just surviving my brain right now. I'm home. I try to hang out with my babies as often as I can and survive my own brain.
Yeah. What's it like being a father right now? Like you have the most time to be a father right now. What are you experiencing?
Well, it's a lot because I remember my childhood growing up, and so I do a lot of comparison, and it's you have a lot of clarity as to why and how things happen. And so for me, it's making sense of my own life and my own childhood and why it went the way it went. And that again, having been fighting my whole life, I didn't have time to think or worry about any of that. But now that I'm retired, I have all the time in the world, and I'm just trying to make sense of my own life.
Could you say it's like a flood of emotion and a flood of like feelings just coming at you that you're having to process and deal with now because you don't have that outlet like we've talked about. You don't have that outlet in boxing anymore, right? So you're looking for other outlets, but it's life kind of just coming at you now. Is that kind of accurate?
Well, I invited it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been wanting. I knew that there was something going on behind the scenes. And that's why I've always said, boxing was my favorite coping mechanism. It allowed me to not worry about what I had brewing and just focus on what was in front of me. But now that I don't have that, I'm choosing not to have that. I'm choosing not to have anything. So I'm focused on that and hoping that I can make sense of that and build a good foundation on which to build upon.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you've been very open about your mental health and I guess I would say your struggles in overcoming certain things. Is there what can you share what was your diagnosis? I know it, but what was your diagnosis for people that are watching this?
I mean, ADHD, that was one of the first ones. That's actually why I went to talk to a psychiatrist so I could get medicated for that. And then I got diagnosed with bipolar, OCD, major depressive disorder. CPTSD was the one that, it wasn't shocking. It was shocking that I have it and that I dealt with it my whole life. It wasn't shocking that I had it because I know what I went through.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It all made sense for you.
Yeah. Basically, I was trying to, again, find the pieces to the puzzle so I could see what the heck was going on. And so that's essentially what that did for me. It validated a lot of my experiences.
Mm-hmm.
So you would say it was a sign of relief to hear the diagnosis or just to hear the doctor say this is what you have. Was that a relief, or is it still a burden that you're going to continue to?
Well, it's both a relief and a burden because I still have to contend with it at least I know who my opponent is now. So it was relief in that sense that at least I know what I'm up against, you know. But it's figuring out how to
Fight it, how to fight it.
Yeah.
How did you break the news to your family?
I mean, I didn't. Like we always knew that I was different, that I that I had something going on. But I mean,
And that's what I was gonna ask before that. Before you, is when did you realize when you were younger or fighting or that you had something, or you were different, or something was different and not normal for yourself? Not that anyone saw it, but you just realized this ain't normal for me. When did you realize that?
I mean, no, I knew that I was different from a very, very young age.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, like I didn't struggle with anything, you know, like everything came easy to me, and I just made sense of things, and you know, like I don't know, I never felt normal per se, but I knew that my life was going to be really, really difficult when I was around 9, 10 years old. That's when I the first grown man talk that I had to have with myself happened.
What triggered that?
A situation with my parents.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, I witnessed and lived something, and I was like, "Fuck!" Like,
Yeah.
it's gonna be tough.
It's gonna be hard to get over that one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was like
And-
a triggering moment.
Yeah. So, you know, I like I said, I had a grown man talk with myself, and I was like, "What you?"
At 9.
At around 9, 10
Wow.
years old, and so I was like, "It's gonna be hard. It's gonna be, you know, but." Like I have my siblings and I have my mom, and you know, so that's who I did it for.
Mm-hmm.
You going back to it just a little bit here. I asked you, so when you found out this diagnosis, and I don't know if it was all at one time or it was over several times. You know, did you have to do that test and that kind of stuff? So, doctors explaining this to you, right? You're processing all of this stuff. Dean said maybe a little bit of some relief, but man, now I know what my opponent is kind of going forward. So is this something you just kind of held internally for a little bit to process it more, or did you start to maybe kind of confide in some folks about it?
Yeah, I mean, I don't have many people around me, but the ones that I do have, yeah, I was open. And well, more than anything, for me, it was a relief, because I didn't even understand myself, why I acted the way that I acted, why I reacted the way that I reacted, why I was doing the things that I was doing, why I didn't care, why this, why that, you know. And so I finally, like I said, I finally started, at least I had the pieces of the puzzle. I knew what kind of puzzle I was dealing with, so I knew where to place the pieces, but obviously a lot of it is still up in the air, and I'm still trying to figure out where the pieces go, how to put them there, and what it even means once they're there.
Mm-hmm.
What kind of tools are they giving you to work with?
I mean, not really. I first went to therapy after my diagnosis, to try and find some meaning in life, because I did everything I did with boxing and whatever, you know. I won my title, I made all the money in the world, and I more than I knew what to do with, you know. So and to me, I always say that winning the world title was one of the worst things that happened to me. I hated that. I didn't know I was gonna hate it, but I hated it, because at that moment the veil was lifted, and it's like someone turned on the light, and it was like, well, you've been here this whole time. This is what you wanted. This is, you know, whatever. But this isn't the solution.
It didn't bring the satisfaction you wanted.
Not at all. It just made it. Like I said, it turned on the lights too, and I could see the mess that was in the room with me, and I was like, "Ugh." Like,
Yeah.
all right.
And the thing is, besides the stuff that happened or the way you felt through the years, you were still able to successfully win the world title and be a great fighter. And so you dealt with that, even though you had something trying to hold you back.
Again, boxing was my coping mechanism.
Yeah.
So it
So
was
you're
my
good
medicine.
at it because of all you had the coping you had to do.
And so, and at the same time, I had an advantage. I didn't care what happened to me. I didn't care about getting hit. I didn't care about the injuries. I didn't care about myself. You know.
And that's the whole thing. The question is, would you have been able to go that far and push through that much if had you not been feeling that? You know what I mean?
Well, I feel like I would have done even more had I been feeling good.
You think so?
You know, had it been the opposite and I felt good about myself and I loved myself and I was doing things out of love instead of hatred or, you know, I would have gone even further because I would have made the right decisions. I would have taken care of myself throughout the whole process, and I wouldn't, you know, I.
You think you could go through those wars though?
Oh hell yeah!
Yeah.
Because that was always in me. I mean,
that's been in your DNA already.
Yeah. Yeah, because like I said, I never struggled with anything. Like I never struggled with anything. Baseball, I was one of the best in baseball. I joined swimming. I was pretty good at swimming. Anything that I ever did, I did it to the best of my ability. You know, and I have my dad to thank for a lot of that because he was always there. You know, he was there for anything I wanted to do. But boxing always had to be part of the picture. So like if I wanted to do baseball, we'd go on our own and we'd practice and we'd everything, you know, multiple hours a day, multiple days out of the week. But boxing always had to be, you know, the cherry on top. I couldn't have the Sunday if boxing wasn't involved.
When did boxing stop being fun for you?
I don't think it ever did. Really? Being in the ring was, I mean, it.
Because you always hear about, like, you know, in any sport, you know, it was fun, but then it became a job, or, you know, that's putting it mildly. But, you know, you always hear those experiences of that. But I don't know if there was for you, you're saying that it was always something for you that you always enjoyed no matter what.
The fighting. I mean, but I guess, yeah, once it turned into a business, which when you turn pro and you start getting paid and you start having to do certain things so that you keep getting paid and doing things, that's when it becomes a job. And I mean, the job sucks. The job part sucks, but at the end of the day, I still got to get in the ring and do what I did.
Right.
So
you're just like a naturally gifted athlete, man, and blessed with some, I mean, everything you did, you touched, you were really good at, right? And it just seems to me, just sitting here listening to you talk, that even those trades are helping you right now deal with what you're dealing with, what you're going through. All that's part of the tools in that toolbox. It's your DNA, and it's helping you cope with it every day, putting little things together.
Yeah. The interesting, not a lot of people know this, but I don't know how old you were, what year this was. I was, I think, a freshman or sophomore in college, but you had lived with us. You were doing camp with us for about 3 months. How long was that? 3 months?
About 3 months.
I
Yeah,
can't
a couple of
remember,
months.
right?
Yeah.
So you were living with us, you know, and I got to kind of be with you for 3 months, right? And
he eats a lot.
and that was interesting because it was almost one of the first times I was going through my own shit. I was just starting fighting. I was just kind of like getting my feet wet. And you were in the gym with us, and I remember thinking, like, even after the gym would go, like, we would stop training, you would come home and I was there, and we would kind of be like, man, this guy is similar. Like, you're kind of going through, like, you're kind of explaining things the way I would explain it. Or when we would talk or text, I would be like, man, this is like talking to me almost in a way. Like, not word per word or not like an ideal like match, but it was just kind of like, man, this guy is similar to me. It was one of the first times I had kind of felt that. And I got diagnosed with bipolar 1, you know, maybe a couple of like 5 years after that. And then when you got diagnosed with that, I was, you know, to be honest with you, I was just kind of like, man, like I didn't know that, of course, I didn't know the extent of what you were going to go through or what was to be ahead, but I felt something there where I was like, wow, like there's a connection.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know if you felt that too, but it was just one of those things where I'm like, okay, this guy's like, he's different like me. Yeah. You know, like I'm not around a lot of guys.
We understood each other on a different level, at a deeper level.
Like I remember even you were telling me real early on, you were saying like you were over this whole boxing shit. Like you weren't really, and you were getting ready to fight. You were only like, what, 12 fights in or something like that. And I was just like, man, how did this guy get here feeling like this? Like, and I remember texting you like, well, I'm coming for you. Like no matter what, like I'm right behind you. Like I'm coming. Cause I remember thinking like, man, this guy's not mentally there. But then I remember seeing you in the gym, like physically, this guy is up here. Like, I can't imagine when that mental reaches that physical, you know what I mean? It seems like that's what's going on right now. Like you're going through that process of your mental matching your physical. You know what I mean? And that's kind of like where you're gonna find your ultimate self. Like you're on that journey right now, and I'm proud of that. I'm like just keeping up with you from afar. I'm kind of proud of you for that, and just how you're living now. I feel like you have like the most purpose right now.
Yeah.
It's your purpose.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Do you feel like that?
Yeah, I mean, well, yeah, finding myself or getting myself back. Like I said, when I was 17, that's when I thought about ending it. You know, that's when I my first contract with myself, like I said, was at 9, 10 years old. But at 17, I had to rewrite that contract and the terms and conditions and everything. And that was another grown man talk that I had to have with myself, because I mean, I promised myself that I wasn't gonna abandon my family. So at 17, I was having thoughts of abandoning my family and everything. And so I had to, you know, have another talk with myself, and I was like, you can't. You know, you have your mom, you have your siblings, and you know what's gonna be of them if you're not here, or if you know. So my family had already been dealing with enough, so I couldn't put them through that.
Yeah.
You know, so I sucked it up and I pushed through, and you know, I had to do what I had to do.
Do you me just kind of coming from the same neighborhood that you're in, being diagnosed with a mental illness, I see it in my family somewhat. You know, like I'm not the first one. You know what I mean? Do you see that in your family?
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. But I mean, I get it. Especially, I mean, I was kind of forced into it, you know. But I get it. It's scary, and it's been a lot. It's been the hardest fight that I've had to go through.
So a lot of people avoid it.
Yeah, I've been my most formidable opponent, and you know, I can see why now, and I can see why people avoid it. But I mean, it's the most fulfilling thing that I've done in my entire life, getting myself back. You know, because like I said, at 17, that's when I feel like I let my spirit go. I let everything go, because I took steps towards, you know, ending it. But so ever since then, I feel like my spirit had left me, or like it was mad at me, or you know what I mean. And so I've been trying to build a good home for my soul, my spirit, whatever the heck you want to refer to it as, for it to like come back and be good, and you know, be happy.
Yeah, that's good. We've talked to other former fighters before and all that. And even my dad, how he said before, I don't recognize the guy that was in the ring. Like when you watch your fights, when you like play it back in your head of all the things you went through, and you're just seeing it on TV or whatever. Do you see that as somebody different than who you are right now?
No.
You see the same guy. Interesting.
Yeah.
Because you were saying it's kind of like you don't know how you did that.
To me, it was like that was a different person going through that grind and doing that stuff. Because the person I'm at now is like, I'm not that guy anymore. I'm not that. I don't think I could do that again. The grind and the fighting and getting hit, and I'm older too, right? I'm 58 years old, but
damn, bro.
Yeah, man.
You're 58, James.
Burley.
Oh, well, I mean, you're not that much older then.
Yeah. So I don't see that. Like, man, I don't see how I could ever have done that.
Probably
It's
comes with time, though,
two personalities is what I'm saying. I don't have that personality anymore.
But that's most boxers, I would
I
assume.
guess, yeah,
most
yeah.
boxers have two. You know, like
You have to.
you wouldn't think
Yeah,
you
have
wouldn't
to
think this guy's this
you
nice out here.
dissociate to an extent.
Yeah.
You have to.
Like you said, you get hit, you
Yeah.
grind it out, you did it, whatever you had to do, you didn't care, right? Now I think
But
you
I
would
feel
care.
like I feel
Would you
like I
care
can
now?
still do that.
If you got in the ring, would you care a little bit? Like, man,
Well, no, that's why my last 3 fights, because that's when I started caring for myself,
Yeah.
or you know, whatever, and like, yeah, it changed everything. But at the same time, I was trying to do this and do that at the same time, and I feel like that's what gets complicated, because I feel at the point that I'm at now, I could still fight. I could go back, and I know I could be world
Maybe even
champion
better.
again. I know exactly, because I'm going to do things right from the very beginning. You know what I mean? And these last 3 fights, I couldn't, because I was dealing with my humanity, you know, trying to find myself and being human and everything that being human comes with, at the same time that I have to be this fucking monster that doesn't care. And you know what I mean? That's why I say, like, boxing for me was very different. I had to let go of everything. I said in an interview with Brian Custer, I was like, I was hoping one of those punches ended me. Like, I didn't, I wanted to fucking die
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like I wanted it to
You
be
pushed the
over.
guy hard enough to make him fight
Yeah.
you. Yeah.
I didn't care. I was like, well, let's go. We're gonna go at this until one of us dies. Like that was my mentality. That's why Gladiator was my favorite movie of all time, because I felt like, you know, I was in a sense a gladiator. Like I was hoping that was it.
This is what you're here for.
Yeah.
This is it. Yeah.
Either you
See,
die or I
I
die.
was fighting for a different reason. I was fighting for my family.
Yeah.
I was fighting for fame. I was fighting for money. I was fighting for glory. I was fighting to be the best.
Yeah.
And so I was doing everything right. You know, don't drink, don't whatever, right? Everything right. So I was taking care of myself.
Yeah, no, I wasn't.
Yeah, the difference.
Do you feel like this knowledge you have right now, it seems like, you know, just speaking to you and me knowing you for a while, but like just speaking to you, you seem like really well-rounded and educated on yourself. You know what I mean? I guess the twofold question that I'll get into is, where do you get this from? Like, are you reading a lot? Do you look to other people, or is it more just self-discovery?
I always thought about Omar. Like when you lived with me, or with us, whenever they would ask about you, I'm like, he's just smart. Like he's
Yeah.
just
Yeah, you're a smart
you're
guy.
talking to. I mean, because again, you have and I don't want to interrupt the question, but that's the first thing that ever came to my head when I met you, is how smart you were, and I'm like, he's a boxer.
Yeah.
Because you meet so many boxers that's all they do. They just you had that same lifestyle too. You eat, breathe, sleep boxing, but there's more. You know,
There's
there's more to
substance.
you.
There's
you know?
substance.
Yeah, so that was one thing that always stood out to you, or for me, was how smart.
Where did
you
that
were.
come from? Do you read a lot, or I would assume you just, you know, you're learning by experience a lot. That's how I know.
Well, yeah,
you,
I mean, we have social media now, so a lot of my feed is just in a sense, it's catered towards my self-discovery, you know, and trying to understand humanity. Again, I'm new to this whole human thing, so I'm doing a lot of research as to what it takes to be. Actually, my therapist was blown away by me. You know, like I saw her every week for almost a year, and like I was still blowing her mind. You know, 9 months into therapy, she's like, she couldn't make sense of me, and that's one of the first things I told her. And I went, I'm like, I just don't make sense. Like I don't make. You know, typical therapist was like, no, you're fine. We don't speak that way about ourselves, you know, whatever. And it wasn't until I don't know how many months in, or, you know, how many visits, she was like, yeah, you're complicated. Like I don't know what to make of you. And I'm like,
There's a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Same experience.
James has a
Yeah.
similarity to that with his therapist.
I had to stop going to therapy. Similar. I don't want it to be about me. Similar reason. I felt like my therapist kind of got enthralled by me, and she told me, I'm gonna learn a lot from you. And I'm like, but I'm not here to teach. Like I'm here to learn something from you. It was a woman as well, and I felt like it was just it was crossing that line, you know, where I was just like, okay, like I had some of the feeling that you felt. It's funny you say that. How, you know, not to get the subject off you, but how do you feel your experience with this knowledge? My second question, with this knowledge that you have, and that, you know, you're kind of understanding yourself better. How do you feel your brother is utilizing that knowledge in his camp, in his journey? You know, yeah, he has somebody in you that's very experienced that is going to look out for his well-being as well, or his mental state. How does that help him? Do you feel like y'all are going about y'all's careers totally different ways?
Oh yeah, it started completely different. It was always different, and I mean, he loves boxing. Like he loves the workout, he loves the dieting, the whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna say I didn't love it, but I enjoyed it. Like it was part of the process, and one of the reasons why I chose boxing is because of how hard it is. Because I knew that not everyone can do it, and not everyone can do it at the highest level. You know, so that's one of the things that drew me to boxing, is that how hard it was. And so, but I see my brother, and, you know, obviously boxing is not easy for anyone, especially the camp isn't easy, you know, but he loves it, and I love that for him. And I tell him, like, bro, whatever I'm with you. Like, whatever you choose to do, like, you don't have to fight, you know, you don't have to do anything, but if you love it, then go for it. Yeah, he fucking loves it.
Is that something you're aware of? Like you're not trying to make it easy on anybody. It's hard in general, but like trying to keep his mind right, or is that something you got to focus on?
His mind is what I focus on.
Well, you were saying he helped you, right? Like he was helping you out in certain ways. Like you were saying your brother, like he was helping you out. You ran to him a little bit, right? Like, did you just say that right now?
Yeah.
So like,
well, in recently.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, recently.
So you can see it as you're kind of helping each other out in these two different things you're into, these two different life events you're all going through. He's still in his career. Yours is done for right now, right? It seems like, and
it's done.
and he's helping you with life. You're helping him with life in a way. That's good.
Yeah.
You're using your.
Well, yeah, because I like I said, I made it. I made it, and I was by myself when I made it. You know, I had no one to look to, no one to turn to, no one to guide me, no one to help me who had been in that kind of position before.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so like I didn't care. I didn't care about anything. So it was really hard to find some sort of stability because I didn't care.
Yeah.
Like I said, I didn't plan to live long enough to regret any of the BS that I was getting into. So now I'm here and dealing with all of this, and I'm just trying to do it in a sensible way. And while I do it, like I know that there are a lot of people, because I've talked to a lot of people who are just as lost.
Yeah.
You know, and so I'm trying to be that lighthouse for them. You know, they're out at sea and they're in you know, treacherous waters, and so I'm just trying to be that guide that kind of helps them, you know, more than anything, to look inward and take care of themselves first before they go out into the world.
I think there's no better therapy for someone like you or my brother, even, you know, us, that we experience that. You know, best way to feel better is to teach someone else, you know, and to understanding the lesson you're giving out is exactly the lesson you need to hear for yourself.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, that's one of the best ways to teach, is by teaching someone else.
Right.
It's the same thing we learn with boxing. You learn something, and then when you teach it to somebody, you learn it twice, and you're like, "Oh, I got it."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? I can teach it to somebody. You know, you're on the front lines of this mental health fight, making it, you know, not so taboo. You're also from the Valley, right? You're also in that primarily Mexican area.
No one wants to talk about, or should we don't talk about that.
What
Keep
is
it
that?
to yourself.
What does that fight look like there?
It's getting a lot better. It's becoming more and more accepted, you know. So like, I mean, I still get told like, "Oh, it's all in your head," or "Oh, this." And it's like, no, I know. That's why I'm here, and that's why I'm doing what I'm doing, because it is all in our heads. And so that's why I'm trying to get people to look inward and to pay attention to themselves and to their heads, and to, you know, take care of themselves.
We, on our last podcast, we were talking about kind of like spirituality and the role it plays in our life, you know. Has this changed your spirituality at all? What do you run to when you're trying to strengthen yourself up? Is there something like a foundation that you run to or not?
No. I stopped believing in God or anything like that when I was a young kid. I mean, because I grew up Catholic. I was raised Catholic. I would go to church on Sundays and whatnot, and so I did a lot of praying. I did a lot, and it didn't help anything. You know, so I was like, where are you?
Yeah.
You know, so then I read this quote that changed my life, and it said, "Stop believing in the supernatural and the occult and start believing in yourself." And so then it got me thinking, like, well, that's true. Like when I pray and when I'm this and when I'm that, like it's just me talking to me.
Yeah.
When I this and when I that, like it's just me talking to me.
You still got to move forward.
So I've realized that, like, you know, and then obviously taking everything I learned from my time in religion and CCE and doing all those things, I was like, well, yeah, like I do have God in me, and in a sense I am God. You know, like not like that either, but in a sense I am God, and
You're
I'm
your
in
source
charge
of strength.
Exactly. And so ever since, I don't remember how old I was when I read that quote, but ever since then I've kind of just put it all on me. You know, the accountability, the whatever, like everything's on me.
Yeah. Ain't that interesting? Interesting,
So
right?
that's exactly what we talked about, really. Like you're hitting it on the head of how James experienced and how I experienced it. He changed all of our lives in terms of just being able to open your mind to you know, we grew up Catholic and we went to, you know, Catholic school our whole lives, but it's okay to question, you know, and you know, welcome anything, you know, because you know, again, it works for someone else, but for me it might be different. But altogether, like for me, I like believing in me, and you know, and that's how we operate.
That was one of those things when on the last podcast we were saying I was watching my dad fight, and not that he would thank God or anything, but he would at some point, you know. And I remember thinking, but you fought. You're the one in the ring. Like you're like that guy prayed too. He walked in with a rosary on his neck. Like how I don't see you going to church like that. Like there must be another thing here, right? At play. And I guess coming from that whole, like, you knowing boxing and just seeing it, I guess coming from that realization of that plane is like, there is no God here. You know, it's just you and that guy.
Yeah.
And, you know, you can argue that, but at the same time, it's just like, I guess coming from where we're coming from, it's like, I need something more substance. I need me. I need to be in my corner, you know? That's interesting, just how you explained it. It's kind of exactly what I've went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an interesting one, you know?
Yeah, but I think you know, and I'm different from all of y'all. But no, that's not correct. Let me rephrase that. We all are going through our own spiritual journey, whatever that is. I think whatever's right is maybe the way you're feeling it right now. You know, whatever that is, and you know, just sitting here watching you and listening to you, I'm just enthralled at this young man who is just going through this amazing journey right now, and this self-discovery you're going through, and then just the help that I think you're going to be able, that this episode, hopefully to a lot of other people, but just you as you continue to go on, man, and talk to people about your journey, it's going to help a lot of other people out there, right? I think this is all part of probably what you're supposed to be doing right now, right?
And I think one of the things you tell people, or what you're telling a lot of people right now, is don't give up on your journey.
Yeah.
Don't give up on yourself. There's more to you. There's more fight, right? And you're doing it. Y'all both doing it.
Yeah.
You know, our way of giving back too is like helping out, like the way he got his help.
I've learned so much about mental health through this young man right here. It's just, it's an education. Sitting here is an education for me too, in my generation, right? And that gives me more fuel to what we're doing with our foundation, because there's just a lot of people that need to find that self-discovery. There's a lot of people that need that help, you know, and there's a lot of people that got to talk about it.
There's a lot of kids out there right now, 12, 13, 14, 15, who feel something, and maybe their parents just said,
or not just
toughen
that,
up,
but
or toughen up.
the role models that they have nowadays. I'm not saying we had the best role models growing up, right?
Yeah.
But we didn't have as many. Especially you go on social media and you see all these people doing the same thing and idolizing the same things and the same people and the same music and the same this. And it's like, I feel like it's a lot easier to get lost in all of that now than it was back in the day. You know, like I feel like back in the day we had more influence from those around us, our families, our friends who were around us at the time, not this guy that you see on Instagram, or this person from TikTok, or you know. So I feel like it's a lot harder to control now because there's a lot more stimuli that's out there that's maybe guiding them or taking them the wrong way or the wrong direction. And that's why for me I want to bring it back to like
they're looking up to the wrong people, or they're looking up to people that they shouldn't be looking up to,
or they're looking up to people that's manufacturing them to look up to. You know what I mean? Like, that's what I'm saying. There's like algorithms and stuff that are gonna be on your face. I
feel like, yes, that is a big contributor, but at the same time it's like these kids don't have any foundation. So they're taking all this stuff and they're taking it in, not like back in the day, or like we didn't have that. So we didn't have so many things pulling us in all these different directions. So what kids have nowadays, and they have all these people pulling them in all sorts of directions. Maybe they have a certain way they want to go, and maybe it's the right way, but they go on social media or their friends even, because everyone's so easily swayed by everything going on around them.
Yes.
You know, and I feel like that's the biggest contributor to like kids derailing from their own path.
In your background as a, 6 to 10, 11-year-old young boy, did you, were you all one where, I mean, obviously, you had television. That was about it. I don't know how many channels you had back then.
Yeah.
Back in my day, we would only have like 4 channels. It's crazy to believe.
And two didn't work.
Yeah, and 2 didn't work. You'd have to hit the TV on the side, for it to kind of stop the fuzziness so you could see the picture. But we spent a lot of time outside. and that was really cool because it let our minds just kind of grow and develop. And whether we were playing, mimicking a Western or something outside, or us playing football or baseball or sports basketball, racing, whatever it was, with our big wheelers, again, we were outside doing something, stimulating this creativity, right?
You weren't on those iPads? You weren't on those iPads? The
iPad. Yeah. But yeah, so I mean, what in your, as a young child, young boy, young man at those ages, what upbringing did you have? And was it a strict upbringing? You had to be in a certain time. You had to. Okay.
Yeah. Well, yes.
Okay. But were you able to go outside and play and do that kind of stuff, or did you have to stay busy?
During the day, when my dad didn't really have a job until I was like 12 or whatever. So until then, any time, whatever that he had available was dedicated to me. So I never had really time off or anything. And that's why I was doing 4 sports at a time sometimes. Plus I don't know if it's my ADHD or what the heck it was, but I had unlimited energy. So I'd be going all day nonstop, and even till night. And then, like I said, it had to be topped off with boxing. So no matter what I did, whether I went to baseball practice, basketball practice, football practice, soccer practice, whatever practice, I had to finish off with boxing.
Yeah.
So that's something that I got used to.
Yeah. You're busy, and then, I think that's kind of also where you develop that competitive spirit, man, just being a competitor, right? And being an ADHD, you're kind of, you're just, a lot of folks, I have, a couple of people in my immediate family that have been diagnosed with that as well too. And, I think sometimes it gives them that zero focus in on stuff, right? I don't know. I'm just in awe here, and it's just like I was when I was, these 2 guys have been in my life for a long time, since they were little babies, right?
Not even too long. It's been 3 long.
Huh?
You've been in our life. It's not even too long. 3 long.
Yeah. And so, but getting to watch them grow into fine young men that they are, but learning a lot from him. I'm just sitting here in awe, listening to you with this deep understanding of kind of who you are, but also you're still also kind of that same, what I'm saying is all of that stuff that you had growing up and that razor sharp focus on ADHD, I think is also helping you to go through the self-discovery on yourself. And I think that's what's going to help you, man, down the road be a huge success for a lot of other people too.
When you're in an auto accident, you shouldn't be concerned with legal runarounds, just real advice. You deserve an attorney ready to work for you, an attorney that won't back down.
I've lost loved ones due to the negligence of others. If you or a loved one has been injured in an auto accident, I want to be there for you.
Raul B. Rodriguez and his team care about ensuring you and your family are represented, whether on the road or in the workplace. Raul is real, and Raul won't back down. Call 210-899-0300 to schedule a free consultation.
Right now, do you find like there's even an end to your journey? Like you're always gonna find something to improve on. You're always gonna I can see you right now, and just the 2 different dynamics here. Like where I'm looking at Mark, and I'm kind of seeing a little bit of like, okay, well, I'm here. Like this is kind of who I am, and this is what's going on, and this is the foundation. This is the lay of the land. And then I see you, and I see you kind of like figuring it out, And I don't think you'll ever get to the point where you're saying, okay, well, this is it, and this is what's going on. I think in you, it's just naturally I'm gonna keep looking, I'm gonna keep searching, I'm gonna keep figuring it out. I think that's how your mind works.
Yeah.
Just because that's how mine kind of works. You know what I mean? I'm not saying I know you, but I know me.
Yeah.
Right? And do you think it'll ever get to that point? Do you feel like you're on like a search still? Like you're still figuring things out?
No,
you know
I learn a lot. I'm learning right now.
Yeah, we're learning.
Yeah, I feel like when you stop that's essentially when we die.
Mm-hmm. I feel like that's a lot of people though. A lot of people close those doors, and this is it.
Yeah.
I've gotten this far.
So here's I'm going to get to what you're saying is a lot of people would just say, I'm done, or a lot of people.
Or they're comfortable.
It's an old school mentality. I think I would like to say that. So what I was going to ask you, and you don't even have to answer like yes, I'm not going to say anyone in particular, but to your family, when you came out and said what you had to your family, were they like, okay, we have this, we got this, or were they saying, nah, you don't have, that's not it? You know what I'm saying? Like,
Like
would
dismissive.
they accept? Yeah, were they trying to dismiss that?
My parents
Yeah.
are still dismissive,
Mhm.
but because a
And-
lot of what I was carrying was put on there by them.
Mm-hmm.
And so I feel like now that I'm dealing with all of this and I'm uprooting everything and they're able to see what kind of mess they put me in, you know, I feel like it's a lot for them to
Accept.
accept. And so they don't want to accept that.
Sometimes
that they
if
did
you
what they did.
push it away, you don't have to
Deal with it.
you just deal with it.
Exactly.
And I understand. And I won't say I understand them by doing that, but I understand the old school thinking of that's not it.
Yeah.
You're,
Like you're a grown man.
Yeah, you
Deal with
come
it.
on, shake it off, whatever, right?
Like you already got
back
kids.
when
Why
our
are you
parents
dealing
would
with
tell
you?
us or
You got
whatever.
kids or whatever, right?
Yeah, you know, and I understand that, and I understand it's a pride thing too. There's no way I'm gonna contribute to whatever you have or what you say you have.
Oh, now that you're doing bad, now it's our fault. But when you were doing good,
What do we,
you
yeah,
know.
There's a lot
and the
for
thing
them
is,
to
but
grow
there's
up.
the reason I want to bring this up is because there's so many kids out there, or not just kids, people, grown-ups who still haven't figured themselves out, saying, "Why am I the way I am today?" Now, it's not always a blame on the parents, but there's something there. It's always the closest people to you because
it has
yes.
to come from somewhere.
Yeah, it's
And
always the
we-
closest people
your
to you.
environment.
Exactly, and we can't raise ourselves.
Yeah.
Humans cannot raise themselves.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's one of the craziest things, that humans are born some of the most vulnerable mammals in existence. But within a year, we go from being the most vulnerable to being the most capable. You know, we're able to walk, we're able to communicate to an extent, and so we go from like a lot of animals are born and they're like right away can walk and can graze and can do this and can do that. Humans can't. We require others, and that's the thing. Like even now, obviously, I've required help from others, but it evolves. It evolves with you, and you have to evolve with it.
Yeah.
And so that's the thing. When you say, "Oh, are you done?" It's like, no, you can never be done. Because something new will always come up, and you have to be willing, and you have to accept that, and you have to be willing to do the work to evolve with it. Just like computers, just like whatever. Like if a computer could evolve with us, like you think a computer would still want to be a Windows 87 or whatever the heck it was, like it wouldn't be able to compete.
That's why I always use the analogy, or like the saying, I'm talking to an iPhone 4. And I can't upgrade you. You got to upgrade. Like, I'm an iPhone 16. You're an iPhone 4. I don't think this is going to work.
Yeah, we're not even compatible anymore.
You got a different charger on
You're
it,
obsolete.
bro. Like,
Yeah,
you know
exactly.
what I mean?
So, are you still going to therapy?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Oh, actually, I had therapy today.
Is it right now?
This is therapy.
This
is better than
this. Already
It's fine.
happened?
It's fine.
This is therapy.
You know,
So do you
for all
want
of
to
us.
call them so we
I
could
think
get them in?
I think it's therapy for all of us. We are learning. We are getting something from this.
No, this is. I mean, to James's point, it's you always have to keep learning, man, and you can't shut it off.
That's one thing that I tell kids at the gym, and even guys our age at the gym. Like that's where I have the most people coming up to me and asking me some like stuff, even online or whatever. But I'll say always question the source of who's telling of what you just learned. Like, okay, someone's telling you something. Question the source though. Look at the source. Who is the source? Did he learn something? How is he closed off? Is he open? Is this the best knowledge? Question the source.
Could be a lot of fake news.
It could be a lot of fake news. You know what I mean? And that's what I always say, like, even question me. Anything I give you, any knowledge I give out, anything about boxing, spirituality, mental health, question me too. I think you can question me because I have the experience in this. I've been doing this for a while, as opposed to somebody who may come from something closed off, who isn't accepting, who isn't open-minded, and they're giving you something. And it's like, well, question the source. It's not always the best material.
I was in the Valley this past Saturday for a wedding, and was visiting with someone that is going to be opening up a like a behavioral institution there. And we were talking about kind of what our foundation does, but also the fact that a lot of Hispanic people just don't talk about this. And I know we mentioned a little bit earlier, but kind of going back to that, and I probably need to put you two guys in contact with each other at least, But what are you doing anything down in Weslaco or the Valley, or to talk to people about? Are people seeking you out, asking you for?
No, I mean right now I have my handful with myself.
Okay.
I do want in the future, I would want to do like, they have Comic Con, they have this, all these. It's like, why not a mental health con?
Yeah.
Like when myself going through the process of, trying to get medicated, trying to find a psychologist, trying to find a psychiatrist and all that, like, it's almost impossible. They make it so fucking hard.
Yeah.
It's like, I just want help. I have to call, this and that, and they ask you a million questions, and something, I don't know, something always came up, and it was like, or like they would just hang up on me. And I was like, what the fuck? I'm calling because I need help. I want to get help. And so one of the things that I want to do is I have a mental health con where it's like we have this convention where psychiatrists, psychologists, therapists, whatever the heck they are, gather, and the people can go and talk to them and get some information, to obviously you're not going to get a diagnosis or whatever, but you're going to talk to them enough to where they'll be able to tell you, like, you would benefit from seeing
and
that.
how do you talk to people too, right? How do you talk
Exactly.
to a family member about it? Stuff like that. That's a brilliant idea,
really
man.
cool.
That's awesome.
In seminars, there's sections for
Yeah,
one-on-ones.
exactly.
Like that.
And I mean, there's
Exactly.
people from
Great
Texas
idea.
we can draw. I mean, Simone Biles, right? I mean, there's a lot. There's a lot of people out there.
Yeah.
It's a great idea.
So that's something I would want to do, and obviously I would put a lot more time into it, but I'm surviving my own trauma. So
Well, maybe it's something we all can do, in conjunction with each other. Might be
sure.
kind of a cool thing.
This would be good to have like a talk like this there.
Yeah.
The same thing, have people watching us talk and just covering certain things that deal with it,
Because
what we've gone through.
Right, because I mean, I think people are like, and you've been very open to about it. I mean, you and Lisa, where you were trying to figure it all out, and when he came to you, and it's stuff like that people would, almost everyone could benefit from.
yeah.
Right? Now, the good news is there's a lot of training that's going on right now. For example, one of the biggest things that we're seeing, not just here in San Antonio, but I mean, this is a global thing, but where a lot of first responders are, a lot of calls that they're getting there because there's some kind of crises at the home or maybe on a highway, somebody, you see this a lot, right? And so it's draining a lot of our first responders from dealing with I don't want to say more serious threat, no, but dealing with something else. And so what a lot of cities are doing is that they're educating first responders, they're educating others on how to quickly assess a situation. You're not going to cure it right there and then, but assess it and try to de-escalate it, and then let's just get you some help, right? So there's a lot of that's going on, but I think also in our own community, there's just a lot more that needs to be done too, where it's discussed more. And there are a lot of parents that say, hey, I see this in my kid, but I'm not too sure. I don't know how to approach them. Maybe they'll grow out of it. There's a lot of that.
Maybe they'll shake it
stigma.
off.
Maybe they'll shake it off. Yeah.
Throw some dirt on it. Throw some dirt on it. That's the interesting thing, though, that I've experienced, me being 34 and kind of our same age, is we're right in the middle of bridging this gap.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? From like these kids that are dealing with stuff to even adults that are dealing with stuff, but they have kids and they don't know how to talk.
That's what I was thinking when you mentioned like a mental health con, is like target those 40 and up people, because they're going to teach their kids and kind of guide them in the right way.
Because they're being raised they were raised in a very different landscape than kids are now, very, very different. That these adults don't know how to deal with.
Well,
their
like
kids,
I
you know?
said, it goes back to now that this whole mental health thing is taking over. You know, we kind of just left it open. So these kids are. That's the thing. That's human nature. They're trying to take advantage or taking advantage of the system. But it's like we need to find the fulcrum. We need to find the middle ground where we can balance both sides. You know, where with the old school and the new school, where mental health is real, and mental health is not that real. But we need to find the middle ground and be like, it's real, but
It's real enough for all of
but-
us to be here
but
present
to an
right now.
extent.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's the whole thing of I get parents asking me too, like my kid's a little down, he's depressed, you know, he's not excited about life, he's not doing a lot, but you know, his dad just died. I'm like, okay, well, realistically, that's normal.
That
Like
might
that's
be
realistic.
something.
You know what I mean? There's something there. Obviously, someone passed. You know, there's realistic things. Just because you are depressed doesn't mean you have a mental illness.
You've always said that, right? There's people that are sad for something
A
that
good
happened,
reason, like it's
but there's
logical,
some people that are sad for no reason.
and you have no idea why.
And why.
He
They
won
don't-
the world title. And he had no
There's
idea.
always
He had no idea why he felt like that. You're just on top of the world. You accomplished some goal that you've always had. You finally caught the dog caught the car, and now what? Like, you know, that feeling alone is like, okay, there's something there. There's something there that's not lining up right. You know, almost the best thing that happened to him is the worst thing that happened to him.
Yeah.
You know, and that's kind of like, how do you make sense of that? And that's
It's almost like when Renee was born and you said, I know I should be happy, but I'm not.
yeah, when my first daughter was born, I was just like, I know, like, this is the crowning moment. This is one of the biggest moments of my life. I understand of her life and everything, just our family. Why can't I plug in? Like, why can't I lock in on happiness right now? Why can't I just be happy with the situation? And that led me down another road of that I had to figure out. You know, that opened up a whole nother can of worms. And that is a mental illness where it's like you can't figure that out. I don't know why.
I think
You
that
know?
was the time when it opened the doors to us. Like, wow, this is not right.
Yeah,
Something needs to
I was
happen.
suicidal at that time. Like, there's a lot going on when my daughter was an infant that I didn't have control of myself. I wasn't in the right mental frame to speak and to talk and to influence and to do any of that. And yeah, that's one of those situations that parents have to recognize and see as like, okay, that's a trigger. That's like there's something
When
going on
did you
there.
finally get plugged in?
I don't know if I ever did. I think I'm obviously I just had another kid a month ago. Similar feelings came up. You know, it's not the same as it was the first time, but I think it's a series of plugging in and plugging out. I think, and I'm not the one plugging out all the time. I find the cord plugged out sometimes,
Right.
and I don't know who did it.
Yeah.
And that's kind of like that feeling where it's like, well, I thought I was charging my phone. The phone isn't charged though. It's like it's not charging. What's wrong? There's something wrong with the cable. Maybe there's something wrong with the phone. Maybe there's something wrong with this, and you got to figure it out.
I'd imagine the I guess you call it the fear of those feelings coming back
Big
could
time.
throw you off.
Big
and,
time.
You know, maybe you encourage it to come back, or maybe you don't. But
I mean, you can relate. Like, you were probably going through a lot when your first daughter came out, right? And then you're going through a lot there, and then I'm assuming like the next one, you may feel like the way you might have that fear, like my brother's saying, of going through that same emotional roller coaster. You know what I mean? But you're like,
it was completely different for me.
Mm.
Like I was at a point where I knew my life was going to change. That's when I knew Golden Boy was trying to get rid of me. I knew that they were tired of my inconsistency, you know, because injuries, and I just, like I said, I didn't care. I was screwing around and not doing things right. So when they put me up against Michael Perez, that's when I knew that they were trying to get me to lose so they could get rid of me and whatnot. So when I kicked his ass, like, that's when I knew that my life was going to change. And that same night, that's when my baby was conceived. And so when I was killing so many birds with that stone. You know, growing up, older Mexicans always say, like, oh, cuando tengas tus hijos, that's like, when you have your kids, you'll see. When you have your kids, you'll see. So in an attempt to better understand my own parents and what they might have gone through and all that, because that's something I've always wanted to try and do. You know, so when I held my baby in my arms for the first time, like, yeah, I get it. But that's the duality of life. You know, you can't have one thing without the other. you know. And so for me, holding her in my arms was the best thing to ever happen to me. But at the same time, in the back of my mind, well, not even the back of my mind, it was very present, but like, I feel like I lost all connection to my dad, especially because I was like how could he? Like, he's not human.
Yeah.
You know, like you, like how
do you do that?
could he? You know, that's what fucked me up. And I you know, I joke with my baby. I always joke with her like, Mama, I couldn't even see you when you were born. I was holding you in my arms and I couldn't even see you. And she was like, why, Daddy? I was like, because I was crying. I was crying so much. I couldn't see you. You were all blurry, you know? And it's like, yeah, that's one of the things that I still can't reconcile. Like, how?
Yeah.
You know, like what, like, you know, and in an attempt to better understand my dad too, like I've tried talking to him about mental health. And when I got diagnosed, one of the first things I did was, you know, because I did my research and it says that 87% or whatever is from the dad and blah, blah, blah. So then I again did a recap and I was like, makes fucking sense. Like, this fucking guy has ADHD too, you know? And so that was another piece of the puzzle that I was able to put in and see things in a different perspective. But at the same time, like, it didn't justify, you know, it didn't justify anything. Because I was like, how could he? You know, that's one of the things that messed me up. And like, well, yeah, I obviously worried that I would do the same, but I was like, but I can't.
Yeah.
Like, you know, so yeah, and then obviously it all just kept going downhill from there.
But I think it could be too that I don't know your dad. I've met him. Friendly person. Met your mom. Friendly people. Your sister, your brother. By the way, a beautiful family. All of you. I mean, you guys were just, every one of you, beautiful. But you know, it could be that this is part of your dad's journey too. He's still kind of maybe processing things, and who knows what his foundation was. You know, stuff that he's having to kind of unpack and deal with as well too.
Yeah, but it doesn't explain or can't even begin to explain, because having kids now and you know, going through this life, and at the same time, like, I don't really see my older kids because they're from one mom, and at the same time, like, I'm trying to heal myself because I know what unhealed parents can do to a child and how much they can affect them. And so that's why I'm kind of taking this time, and I'm sacrificing this time because I want to be there. But I don't want to be there if I'm unplugged, you know, because I was, and I had to, you know, I had to dissociate, and I had to, you know, and it's been the hardest thing to do to take this time away from my children, because that was my reason for existing, is that I wanted to be, you know, a better dad than my dad, or I wanted to be a good dad, or I just wanted to be a dad in general. You know, I felt like I had so much love to give, and, you know, it was just getting pent up, and I had no release for that, because my life was not about that. It was about survival. It was about fighting. It was about all the anger that I had, getting it out, you know. So I didn't have room for love.
How many kids do you have?
5.
5, okay.
Yeah, starting 5 basketball team.
Yeah,
Cool.
I'm working on the bench. No, okay. No.
Are they all kind of athletic?
They could be, but my oldest, she's the sweetest.
How old is the oldest
person? 12. She'll
12,
be
okay.
13 this year.
Yeah. These are important years.
No, I know. That's why I'm working as hard as I'm working to getting myself to a good place where I can be of use, you know.
But you know, not to throw any salt on it, but maybe to argue your point, maybe it's important for her to see you working on yourself.
Yeah, and I mean, in a sense, she does.
It'll never be done.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, but
Always a work in progress.
Always a work in progress. I have some clients that they're talking to me about their sons or their daughters, and they're saying, I haven't told them about the time that I did this though, but I'm like, well, why? What if they need to hear that? What if they need to see you be vulnerable? so that they can be vulnerable in the future. I remember when my dad wasn't in the right spot. I remember when he still came and he showed up and he was telling me, hey, you know what? I'm trying to get here and I'm here right now. I may not, being present. And you never know. Like that could be
but that's a lot easier when both parents are on the same page.
I get your point.
So if I'm on one page and the mom is on a completely different page, then a lot of what's going on with me and what I'm trying to convey is going to get lost in translation.
Yeah. Because once you get out, then there's another person saying something.
Exactly.
They can undo everything.
Exactly.
Yeah. I can get that. I don't get that, but I get it.
Yeah. And you don't want to get that. But and that's one of the terrible things about my situation is that, like I'm just hoping I get to live long enough to see my children grow up and in a sense understand what could have been going on. Because right now it's fighting against the air. There's not much I can do.
When you were fighting, I wanted to ask you this question, and maybe I don't know. When you were fighting, who were you fighting? Who did you see? Everyone's fighting something.
I was fighting my opponent.
You was that person.
Yeah, but I would just use my anger.
Where was that coming from? He didn't get you mad.
Well, no. Well, yeah, the anger was, I kind of explained it like Naruto. I had the 9 toes was my trauma, my anger with my dad, my situation, my, everything that I was living at home. And so, like I said, boxing was an outlet that I was able to unleash that rage.
So you saw him. You're just, this was the fuel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So, I relate to you a lot, but I always feel like I was fighting him. Like I actually had something to reach for that was in my family that I had to kind of, and I remember saying one time, like I told him, man, I want to undo everything you did. I want to just go so far. Like I want to, I want my name to be my name.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I remember saying that, and I remember kind of thinking like, he's the one that I see. Like, it's not me. It's not this guy. Fuck this guy. I'm fighting for something bigger. You know what I mean? So it was always kind of like, I was not fighting my dad, but I was fighting like that I'm working for something.
And you're a junior too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought about changing my name.
I did
like
too.
It got to that point where
that's why like if you see like any fight pictures of me, which no one has seen me fight because there's no video of it, I made sure not to have any video of it online. I think we always said that because people can study you, right? They can look at you and all that. So I didn't put anything online, but it wasn't Leija on my trunks. It was Rumble Boy, and Leija was on the back, and it was just kind of. I remember him telling me when I was getting my trunks made, yeah, Leija goes on the front, and I was like, no, not this one. You know what I mean? And it was just kind of, it was that, that's why I'm saying like it's that Rumble Boy thing that I kind of have, that logo. I confide in that a lot. I kind of run to that a lot because that's me. Yeah. That's kind of my identity. You know what I'm saying?
Did you some names percolate in your mind of what you were thinking of changing to? Ram? That's cool.
It's an acronym. Random assortment of molecules.
That's cool.
It got to that point where like
between that and Gary, right?
Yeah, it got to that point where like I just undid myself completely, and it's like like I'm nothing. I am this. I am complete ego death, and it was like trying to rebuild myself, from the bottom up.
But talking about your professional boxing career, and listen, man, this is. Rare earth. We're sitting here with 2 world champs.
Yep. Dynamite
and it's think of all of the boxers out there, from amateurs to the pros, to the elite pros, to the super elite pros. I mean,
hold on, you're sitting next to an 8th grade athlete of the year.
Oh, okay, I'm sorry.
Put some respect on that one.
So
8th grade.
Yeah. But out of all of those people, man, I mean, both you guys made it to that super elite level. Think about that. I mean, a lot of work went into that, man. And both y'all got there. And so now, when you look back at your professional career, it's a really amazing professional career. And again, a world champ. Nobody can ever take that away.
Do you feel that? Like, the way he's saying it, do you feel that in your heart, or is it more like?
Nah.
Yeah, I would assume not. I'm not. I know he's saying it, but I know you, and I'm thinking he don't. You know.
Yeah.
It's there for me. It's there for me too. I feel what you're saying, but for me, it was a chapter. It was a chapter, and that was chapter 5. I'm in chapter 10 of my life right now.
Right.
And that's just something I read.
Like that can't be the highlight of your whole life. There has
No,
to be
because your
something
life
else.
is still evolving.
Yeah, there
I
has
get
to be
it.
something else. Like there has to be.
Well, but I feel like for me, like I knew that I had the potential or the ability to have done a hell of a lot more. Like a hell of a lot more. Like that was nothing. That was step 1 on a 100-step ladder. You know, and again, the fact that I wasn't able to go any further, and that my mental health took precedence and didn't allow me. So it's something that is like, whatever. Like I don't care about that. I don't see it as anything crazy. I mean, there are some times where I'm like, damn, like I was world champ, you know, like I was number 1 in the world. But when I look at the grand scheme of things, like I still don't feel like I did anything, because I know my potential and I know what I could have done, and it just pisses me off. You know, it sends me in a downward spiral, because I know that was nothing.
Yeah,
Like
that wasn't even me trying. Like that wasn't me. That was nothing, and that's what gets me mad.
You had 2 busted wheels.
Yeah, exactly. Like it. Yeah.
Did you find any happiness at all?
Yeah, I mean,
boxing?
Look at where my family's at now. You know, that's where the happiness is. The fact that my brother is able to live out his dream, and not just that, but he's become a 3-time world champ and do what he's doing and enjoy the life that he's living. You know, my family's just living a great life, and I did that.
I have to ask, the extension into your family of your sister, I guess having a kid with a world champion, right, Mario Barrios. How does that work? How does that whole thing, like y'all's family is kind of boxing elite? You know what I mean? Like, how does that do you is that lost on? I guess what's possible for the next generation, or how do y'all deal with that? Everyone's a boxer, everyone's fighting. You know what I mean? Everyone's invested.
2 brothers world champion, brother-in-law world champion.
Like,
He's
not yet. I mean, I
he's
wouldn't
already
assume.
out of the picture.
Oh,
Really?
Yeah, no, he.
So like, how does
that
that it's, I mean, y'all are surrounded by boxing. Even that, you have a niece.
Yes.
Okay, so like she's gonna know, like her dad was a world champion, her uncles are world champions. Like, how does that work? Like, how do you see that?
No idea. I don't even think it sinks in with me, knowing that I was and my brother is and whatnot. Like,
wow,
I'm surviving, so I don't have time to.
Do you think there'll be a time where you can look back on that and kind of be?
Well, I hope that by that time it'll be too far past that, like it's gonna be the same thing.
Maybe the next steps of that ladder is here, in this space.
Yeah.
Like,
I honestly do. I mean, it can be anywhere. Like I said, I know that I can, whatever I set my mind to, like I'm going to do to the best of my ability, and I'm going to do good.
You're a successful person, not because you made it in boxing, but because you're a successful person. You just chose to box.
Yeah.
You know, whatever you choose to do, the recipe is the same.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's what I tell people a lot. Like, for example, you're not successful because you became world champion. You're a successful person who became world champion.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? No matter what you do, you're gonna dedicate that. You're gonna sacrifice. You're gonna dedicate the time.
Yeah.
Because the recipe is the same.
Exactly. I already know what it takes. And I'm willing to do it.
Right now,
The recipe doesn't change much.
The recipe doesn't change. It's hard work. Yeah. It's sacrifice. He's sacrificing something right now to reach that level. You know what I mean? And that's what you would hope other people would be willing to, like, say, you know what, I'm going to focus on me. And the fact that you have that ability to do that, and you have the means to do that, that's something that not everyone gets to do.
Well, yeah, my brother's the one who's been keeping me alive the last few years. So I have him to thank for a lot of what I'm experiencing and getting to experience and whatnot. Because like I said, I'd given up. Like I got to a point, I think it was after I fought Ugas, and I was just like it was I didn't care, because I was like, dude, I just fought, one of the biggest fights of my career. I made my biggest paycheck and blah blah blah, and it was like nothing. It did nothing. I didn't care. Like I didn't care. It just sent me down a deeper hole, and it was like I reached out to my bro. I was like, bro, I'm done. Like, I'm done. And my bro was like, nah, I got you, bro. Like,
Yeah.
don't worry about it. And so that's why I'm still here.
So what kind of stuff has he helped you with, or
Mainly financially.
okay?
Yeah, because I lost everything.
Mhm.
I lost
It's
everything.
it's not hard for people who are bipolar to lose all of that. You know, that's just it doesn't mean much. You know.
Yeah. I mean, I gave it up.
Mhm.
You know, I didn't care to uphold anything. I had to take care of this.
Yeah.
And you got everything. If you take care of that, you
Yeah.
got everything.
Mm-hmm.
I remember one time, like when I was kind of going through my own thing. I remember one time I told him, man, I spent like $12,000 this month on something I don't even know. Like I don't even know what I spent, and he was looking at me like, what? Like I was like, yeah, I just don't know. Like I don't even know where it went. Like I don't even know what I bought. You know, and it was just kind of like months of that, and I was just like, I don't know where that's going. Like it just doesn't mean much. Like, you know what I mean? I remember that. Like it's not hard. It's that's one of the things of like people who are bipolar. 90% of us get divorced. You know what I mean? Like not the divorce rate is 90% just about because of all these little issues that present themselves.
Right.
You know, and that's what I'm saying. You have to have a good foundation. It's good that your brother has you. You know what I mean?
That's awesome, man.
Yeah. No, yeah, and I'm glad, and you know, I've always been honest. I've always been honest with him, with my family, with everyone. Like he knows exactly what's going on with me, and you know, and how I'm trying to cope.
Mm-hmm.
And so,
Well, we're here too.
Yeah, man. I mean, you whenever you would fight, my mom would always like just be like, "Oh man, like you know my mom, you know."
those jitters.
It's just like, yeah, it's just the same thing. It's funny because I didn't see my mom react like that to anybody else. You didn't see her react like that to anybody else.
No.
Like,
I mean, I was the same way. Like it felt like when you fought, it was like he was fighting. So
yeah, it was just kind of like, you know, I felt like that too. I remember we were fighting on similar days, and I would always have to watch her fight. Like I needed to watch, just see if you were good. Not even if you won. I just need to see if you were good.
yeah.
You know, and that's how I see you. Like I see you like that. I haven't known you for 13 years or something like that. But I'm not gonna speak for you. But you know, I definitely think you're walking in what I always say of, we want to be the voice we didn't have when we were younger. You know what I mean? And this is a big way for me to do it. You know, I want to thank you for being here because I know this isn't easy. Like it's probably easy on you. You know what I mean? Like talking about it all the time because it's so there.
Yeah.
But for most people, it wouldn't be the easiest thing. I think we make it look pretty easy, even though it's not. You know what I mean?
I feel like it's even easier for me because all the bad stuff that I've done is out there already. I had no choice, you know, all the shit that I've gotten into, like it's already out there. So like now it's kind of my way of, you know, give that explanation or that insight into why, you know, and why I'm so adamant and why I'm so open about mental health, you know, because I've been there. You know, I've already achieved what 100% of people want to achieve, which is their goals and money and this and that. Like I've already been there. Yeah. You know, but while there, I'm also trying to give people the insight on like that's not what's going to solve your problems. You know, you got to go within and you got to get yourself right, your mentals right, and everything before you care to do anything else on the outside. You know, because I've been there from my own experience. You know, like I said, I had everything. I had everything I could have dreamed of, or like any kid or any person, you know, dreams of, like money, fame, women, cars, trips, whatever. Like I had it all, and that it's how you use it. Like I said, everything is a tool. Everyone is a tool. Religion, money, etc., etc. They're all tools. It's how you use them. You know, like you give someone a hammer. You give a hammer to a murderer, and they're gonna go murder someone with a hammer. You give a hammer to a good person, they're gonna go build a shelter for a homeless person. It's the same tool. It's how you use it.
Yeah, definitely. It's a good point. There was something I wanted to say. We're gonna probably edit this out. I forgot what the end. Like I forgot what it was. I just told it when like mind fart. Right when you ended that, I was like, I heard something and I was like, oh, that was it, and I lost it.
Well, you know, I just think that again, just sitting here listening to you, you know, you're on a really good trajectory, and I think that as time goes on, your journey is going to be one where I think all of that stuff that, you know, with your children, you know, with your daughter and the other kids that, you know, I think I think all that stuff's going to get resolved, and I think all that stuff's going to work out just great for you. But it's a constant journey. But to see you here, listening to you, I mean, my hat's off to you.
You wouldn't
man.
assume he's going through anything. You would assume he's got it.
There's a lot of self-discovery here, man, and so whatever you're doing, keep doing it.
You're
not done yet.
I would
right?
say for anybody trying to grasp at either like either whether it be boxing or any sport or anything, like even mental health, like coaching or training, it's hard for anybody to take you where you haven't been. You know what I mean? It's hard for you to reach or to look at somebody for advice who hasn't been going through what you've been going through or hasn't felt something similar. You know what I'm saying? Like people who are bipolar, just because we're bipolar, people who are bipolar all wear it differently. There's not all the same. You know, like there's some that different extreme. It's a spectrum, right? So everyone kind of wears it a little bit differently, but we all have a commonality. You know, it's always like, well, I don't understand what you're going through, but I understand what you're going through. You know, in a kind of roundabout way. So, you know, when I felt, I think the first time you were in the gym with Brandon when I had just found out that you were bipolar. Like you had come to the gym, but I didn't know. I think your sister mentioned it to me or something like that. And I remember that day feeling like my world got bigger. You know what I mean? Like another person joined my world. You know what I'm saying? And I have some friends that are bipolar as well, and I'll say the same thing. Whenever I found out they were, my world just got bigger. You know, and I understood them a little bit better. And I think that's what mental illness does. It's a community. You know, it's strong. I think like if you were ever able to do like a mental health con, that would be something so big. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. Like, imagine all people like that in a space. Imagine the support. Imagine like the commonality. Imagine like just being amongst people who are just like you.
Yeah.
And different, and people you can learn from, people who are ahead of you, people who are behind you. Like, it's amazing.
Those people feel like they're the only one too.
Everyone feels like they're by
walk
themselves.
into this huge area of people that are just like.
I felt that with him, just with one person knowing, like, okay, you know what I mean? Imagine if you go into a building of people like that.
Yeah, that's the goal.
That's that. I mean, I'm looking forward to that if you do that. You know what I mean? That should be
Why
once you get right, once everything's good on you, like we said, we're here to help too. This is what we're about. You know, you don't have to. It doesn't have to be just in Westlaco. It doesn't have to be just.
No, I know. Like I was thinking, this can happen everywhere. You know, like June is May is I think mental health month, but June is men's mental health month. So I was thinking, you know, we have the island, so we have the convention center at the island. So I was like, this would be perfect. You know, get everyone to come out here. You know, couple days, come to the island, hang out, take your kids to the beach, and then come to this convention and learn a little bit more. You know, because there are a lot of people who are curious. They just don't know where to begin. They don't know where to start. They don't know.
Well, there's a lot of partners. There's a lot of parents. Yeah. There is those that are dealing with it. Yeah. And some that think, well, maybe I have this, but I don't know. And then there's others who are just saying, mijo or mija, I don't know what this is, but I want to be with you. You know, I want to learn.
It's hard to ask help for somebody who hasn't been there.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They don't know it. They don't understand it.
Right.
So it's tough in a way.
Yeah. Because the dismissal of it is probably the hardest part. Because like I said, like I've been diagnosed, and I went to my mom, and I got dismissed. You know, and I get it. Like it's something that she doesn't want to deal with yet, or she's not ready to deal with yet, or you know, it's too much to bear, because we know at the end of the day our conscience is everything. So that's why I've done my best to keep my conscience clean and light. And that's why I'm so willing and open with what I'm going through, because I'm good. You know what? I have nothing to fear.
That's right.
And at the same time, helping other people.
What better way, right? What better way to live?
Yeah.
Well, man, you know you got our support. You know, I know this kind of come off kind of heavy, but I know like realistically being here with you, you're in a good space. Like you're in a better space than you were before. You know what I mean? It's just it's heavy to talk about subjects like this, but they need to be talked about. You know, they need to be it needs to be comfortable talking about heavy topics like this, because this is life and death. This is very much like life and death, and the more we talk about it, the more who knows, the more the viewer might be able to talk about it in their home. Maybe
it's
there's
so
a
easy
parent
not to
watching
have this conversation.
Yes.
That's why we're doing it.
It's so easy to be
That's a
dismissive
great
about
point.
it or say that's maybe somebody else deal with it, or I just don't. I can't comprehend it right now. I got other things going on. So let me park this over here for a minute, and that minute grows into an hour, a day, a week, a year, a decade.
You got 5 Mexican men here, 3 different generations, talking about mental health. You know what I mean?
It's a start.
You know, it is just a start. It's not the end. You know what I mean? And you know, if any way we can help you in any way, you know what I mean, to do anything you want to do. I think you have more of a pool than I think you do, or maybe more of an influence than maybe you think you do. If we can help you in any way, our foundation, us, me, anybody, you know, if we can help you along that journey, you may help us. Shit, you know, who knows? Just by the way you're talking, what you seem like you're on this road of discovery. I think everybody should be on that. You know, no one. If anybody's taking anything away from this, it's probably getting motivated to do some inner work, do the mental work
Look within.
Yeah, man. Thank you for being here, bro. I know it's not the easiest thing coming up here and all that, but thanks for being here. I know we all appreciate it. I hope the viewer appreciates it, because you're not a guy that I would assume who's easily, you know, swayed to do stuff. You know,
No.
Yeah.
Nah, but you know, I feel like I have what's the word I'm looking for? Well, I have a commitment that I made, and that is to help. You know, to help others, and again, to be that lighthouse to those who are lost at sea, and help them find a way back to the solid ground, because I know what it's like to be drowning in there. And you know, I didn't really have anybody to help or anything. I had to keep myself alive, and that's part of the reason why I've taken all this time to kind of just rest from, you know, just trying to stay afloat for my entire life.
You're the one screwing in the light bulb.
Yeah.
That's what he has there.
Yeah, well, that's why I have this one.
What does that say, man?
Man, what a day.
Oh yeah. That's funny, man. We all have our little reminders, you know. We all have our things. Thanks for being here, bro.
Yes, sir.
You know,
Thank
hopefully
you.
you can come back pretty soon. I mean, you feel like an extended member of the family, so hopefully we get to spend more time with you.
Yeah.
And all that. You know, if we got to go to Westlaco, I don't care, bro.
I'm down to kick your ass at ping pong again.
Yo, man.
Easy
Don't
work.
start.
Easy
Don't start
work.
that.
Easy
Don't start.
work.
Easy work.
That was
Easy
funny.
work.
There were some battles going on. There were some wars going on in ping pong. I remember that. That's funny, man. Yeah, but you know, I was so glad today. I was just so glad that we didn't talk about boxing. You know what I mean? I didn't want it to be about boxing. You have so much more to offer than that, and this is way more important.
Yeah,
So,
F boxing.
for sure, man. Guys, thanks for tuning into this episode. If you like this content, which I'm sure you do, you got to. If you like this content, please like, comment, and subscribe. Please leave a comment for anything that you see today that may help you out. If anybody can get something, if you know somebody that can get something out of this podcast, please share this with them. You know, even a little snippet. Everyone knows someone with something. You know what I mean? Let's not keep it under the covers much longer. Let's expose everything. Let's work on ourselves. Let's do the mental work. You know what I mean? If he's not an example of what it can do for you, who will be? You know? Omar, thanks for being here, guys. Thanks for joining in on the talk today.
It
I know
awesome,
it was heavy.
Omar. Seriously.
I know it was heavy, but it was needed, you know? Guys, be on the lookout for the next episode of the Leija Lounge. This is what we're bringing you. Be on the lookout.